For 300 years, humanity had been sending messages into space. Radio signals, laser beams, mathematical patterns, and golden records filled with music and greetings had been thrown into the darkness between stars. Scientists worked day and night hoping to hear something back, but for 300 years, the universe answered with nothing but silence. Dr. Linda Morrison stood in the observation room of the Kepler research station. The station floated in orbit around Neptune, far from the warmth of the sun. She was 62 years old, and she had spent 40 of those years listening for any sound, any pattern, anything that might tell humanity they were not alone. The station had the largest communication system ever built. Thousands of receivers spread across the outer solar system could detect even the smallest signal from distant stars. But despite all this technology, despite all these years of searching, they'd found nothing. Commander Greg Palmer walked into the room carrying 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to Linda and sat down beside her. "Still nothing?" he asked. Linda shook her head slowly. "Nothing. Same as yesterday. Same as every day for 40 years?" Greg looked out at the stars. He was younger than Linda, but his hair had already turned gray from stress. Running a deep space station was hard work, especially when that work seemed to produce no results. "The council meets tomorrow," Greg said quietly. "They want to stop funding our program." Linda closed her eyes. She had known this was coming. The United Earth Council had been patient for a very long time. But 300 years without finding anything had tired even the most hopeful leaders. "Maybe they are right," Linda said. "Maybe there is no one out there. Maybe we really are alone in this universe." Greg did not answer. There was nothing he could say. The next morning, everything changed. Linda was sleeping when her communication device started screaming. She jumped out of bed and ran to the communication center before she was fully awake. Her heart was beating fast. She felt something she had almost forgotten how to feel. Hope. She burst through the door and found her. The team already gathered around the main screen. Dr. Kevin Shaw, her best signal expert, was standing there with a pale face. His hands were shaking as he worked the controls. "What happened?" Linda asked. "What did you find?" Kevin turned to look at her. Tears were running down his face. "Everything," he whispered. "We found everything." On the screen, data was flowing like a waterfall. Star maps, mathematical formulas, information about biology, history, culture. Someone had sent humanity an entire library of knowledge. "It is coming from the center of the galaxy," Kevin explained, his voice breaking. "The signal is huge. Someone sent us a welcome package." Linda stared at the screen. Her mind struggled to understand what she was seeing. After 300 years of silence, the universe had decided to speak. "There is more," Kevin said. "Hidden in the data, there is a message. A direct communication meant for us." He pulled up the message on the main screen. The words appeared in perfect English. Somehow translated from whatever alien language had written them, the message said, "To the species of the third planet around the star you call Sol, we know you exist. We have known for a long time. You have been marked as a developing civilization and placed under watch. Do not try to communicate further. Do not try to expand beyond your home system. Stay where you are. Stay silent. This is not a request." Linda read the message 3 times before she could speak. "They knew we were here," she said slowly. "They have known all along, and they have been ignoring us." "Not just ignoring us," Greg said. He had appeared in the doorway, his face dark and serious. "They have been keeping us trapped." The data package contained huge amounts of information about the galaxy. Over 12,000 space-traveling species had been found, recorded and organized into a system of government called the Galactic Conclave. The oldest species, beings who had mastered space travel when Earth's sun was still young, sat at the top of this system. Younger species were ranked below them based on their age, their technology, and how dangerous they were considered. Humanity had been labeled as a level 0 civilization, the lowest possible rank, a species to be watched, contained, and stopped from spreading beyond its own solar system. "Why would they do this?" Linda asked. "We have been sending messages of peace for 300 years. We are not dangerous to anyone. Kevin pulled up more data. According to this, every young species is treated the same way. The Conclave does not want to interfere with primitive civilizations. They say they do not want to change our natural development. That is not non-interference, Greg said angrily. That is a prison. They are keeping us locked in our own solar system like animals in a cage. There is something else, Kevin said. His face had become even paler. The data includes information about other species that were marked as level 0, species that tried to expand anyway. He brought up a list of names. Alien words that meant nothing to human ears, followed by a single word, eliminated. 18 species, Kevin said quietly. 18 civilizations that tried to break free, all of them destroyed. Completely, not beaten, not controlled, eliminated. Every planet, every colony, every single person, gone. The room fell silent. Linda looked at the list of dead civilizations and felt something stir in her chest. It took her a moment to recognize the feeling, because it had been so long since she had felt it. It was anger. Within hours of the message becoming public, the whole world changed. Protests broke out in every major city on Earth. Some people demanded that humanity surrender to the aliens. Others called for defiance, for humanity to reach for the stars no matter what happened. Most people simply stood in shock, trying to understand that everything they had believed about the universe was wrong. They were not alone. They had never been alone. And the beings who shared the cosmos with them had decided long before humans had learned to make fire, that Earth's children would never be allowed to leave home. President Daniel Carter spoke to the world from the United Nations building. He was a tall man with gray hair and a face that made people feel safe in hard times. But even he seemed shaken as he addressed the billions watching around the planet. "We have received a message from beyond our solar system," he said. "A message that proves we are not alone. This should be a moment of joy. Instead, it is a moment of hard truth." He paused to gather himself. "The beings who sent this message do not want to talk to us. They do not want to welcome us. They want us to stay silent and trapped in our own solar system, or they will destroy us." The president's jaw tightened. "I want to be very clear about one thing. The people of Earth did not spend 300 years reaching for the stars, only to be told we cannot reach them. We did not build everything we have built, only to accept being prisoners forever." He stood taller. "To the beings of the Galactic Conclave, if you are listening, we hear your warning. We understand what you want. But you should understand what we want too. Humanity does not kneel. Humanity does not give up. And humanity does not stop." The president's speech changed everything. It was the beginning of a new age for humanity. A secret project was started. They called it Project Horizon. Its headquarters was the same Kepler research station where the alien message had first been received. Dr. Linda Morrison was put in charge of the science team. Her job was to study all the data the aliens had sent and find any weakness in there. Technology Commander Greg Palmer was promoted to Admiral. He was given control of a new military force called the United Earth Defense Force. His mission was to turn humanity's small collection of spaceships into something that could actually defend the solar system. Dr. Kevin Shaw was given a team of code breakers and language experts. Their job was to dig deeper into the alien transmission, because hidden beneath the main data, they had found something strange. There were older messages buried inside, like fossils hidden in rock. Messages left by species that had come before humanity. "They are warnings," Kevin told Linda during one of their late-night meetings. Other Level 0 civilizations reached out to whoever might come after them. "They are trying to tell us something." "Tell us what?" Linda asked. Kevin paused. "That the Conclave can be beaten. That there is a way out. But the messages are broken and incomplete. Whatever these species knew, they did not live long enough to tell us everything." Linda looked at the ancient messages on her screen. Her mind was racing with possibilities. "Then we will have to figure it out ourselves," she said. 10 years passed. On the surface, nothing seemed to change. People went to work. They fell in love. They lived their lives as if the universe beyond the solar system did not matter. The alien message faded from the news, replaced by the normal problems of normal life. But beneath the surface, everything was different. Project Horizon had changed the whole world economy. Massive shipbuilding stations now floated in orbit around Earth, Mars, and the moons of Jupiter. New engines were being tested, based on what they had learned from the alien data. Weapons that would have seemed impossible 10 years ago were now being built in factories across the inner solar system, and in deep bunkers under the surface of the moon. A new generation of soldiers was being trained. They called themselves the Vanguard. They were preparing for a war that everyone hoped would never happen. Admiral Greg Palmer stood in the command center of Luna Base Alpha. He watched as the newest group of recruits finished their zero-gravity combat training. They were young, most of them barely 20 years old, but they moved with the skill and focus of experienced fighters. "They are good," said Captain Marie Collins, his second in command. She was a small woman with short hair and a face that rarely smiled. "Better than the last group? It will need to be," Greg replied. "Our intelligence says the Conclave has noticed what we are building. They are not happy about it. Will they do anything?" Greg shrugged. "Hard to say. The Conclave moves slowly. They have been around for millions of years, so they do not rush into anything. But eventually, they will decide that we have gone too far." And then did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Marie studied the display screen, which showed where all of Earth's defense ships were located. 300 warships, from small patrol craft to massive battle cruisers, were spread throughout the solar system. It was the largest military force humanity had ever put together. It would not be enough. "We have studied their weapons," Marie said quietly. "Based on the alien data, a single Conclave battle fleet could destroy our entire civilization in about 6 hours." "I know. So what is the plan?" "We cannot fight them. We cannot run from them. What are we supposed to do?" Greg turned to face her. "We are supposed to make them afraid of us." "Afraid? Of us?" Marie shook her head. "Admiral, that is crazy. We are nothing to them. We are like insects. Insects can sting," Greg said. "And sometimes, when an insect stings badly enough, you decide it is not worth the trouble to kill it." He pulled up a secret file on the screen. "Project Erebus. Our last option. If the Conclave attacks, we will not win. But we can make sure they pay such a terrible price that they will think twice before attacking anyone else." Marie read the file. Her face grew paler with each line. "This is a doomsday weapon," she whispered. "This would kill billions of them." "It is survival," Greg said. "The only kind of survival that is available to us. The Conclave has made sure of that." Marie was silent for a long moment. "I hope we never have to use it," she said finally. "So do I," Greg replied. "So do I." The years continued to pass. 20 years after the first message, humanity had transformed itself. The solar system was now a fortress. Defense stations circled every planet. Weapons platforms floated in the darkness between worlds and deep in secret locations. Ships were being built that could travel faster than light. Dr. Linda Morrison was now in her 80s. But she still worked every day. She had become the world's greatest expert on alien civilizations. She knew more about the Conclave than any other human alive. "They are not evil," she told a group of young scientists one day. "That is the important thing to understand. They do not hate us. They are not cruel. In their own way, they believe they are doing the right thing." "How can keeping us trapped be the right thing?" one student asked. Linda smiled sadly. "Imagine you are millions of years old. Imagine you have seen hundreds of young species rise up, develop dangerous technology, and then destroy themselves or attack their neighbors. After seeing that happen again and again, would you not want to prevent it? Would you not think that keeping young species contained was the kind thing to do?" "But we are not like that," the student said. "We would not destroy ourselves or attack others." "They have no way to know that," Linda replied. "They have only our history to judge us by. And our history is full of war and destruction. Can you blame them for being cautious?" She paused. "That is why we must prove them wrong. not through violence, but through showing them who we really are. We must show them that humanity is worth taking a chance on. But even as Linda spoke of peace, she knew that war was coming. The Conclave had noticed humanity's preparations. Their sensors had detected the new ships, the new weapons, the faster-than-light drives being tested in secret locations. It was only a matter of time before they responded. On the 23rd anniversary of the first message, the response came. A new transmission arrived from the Galactic Conclave. This one was shorter and more direct than the first. A species called Sol 3 has broken Conclave law. Building ships that can travel between stars is forbidden for Level 0 civilizations. Destroy all such ships within 1 year or face punishment. This is your final warning. The message was received at exactly 2:22 in the afternoon. By 3 o'clock, the United Earth Council was meeting in emergency session. Linda presented the analysis. They have found out about our faster-than-light drive. The tests we did last month must have set off some kind of alarm. They know we are close to being able to travel to other stars. President Catherine Price, who had replaced Daniel Carter years ago, leaned forward. 1 year. What happens if we refuse? Punishment, Linda replied. Based on the history and the original data, that means a fleet will be sent to destroy our military and force us to obey. And if they decide to make an example of us? Linda's face was grim. Then we join the 18 dead civilizations. The council chamber fell silent. Admiral Greg Palmer stood up. We have been preparing for this for over 20 years. We knew it would happen. The only question was when. You want to fight? Asked one council member. Against a civilization millions of years old? I do not want to fight, Greg replied. I want to survive. The debate in the council chamber went on for 3 days. People shouted and argued. Some wanted to surrender. Some wanted to fight. Some did not know what they wanted. Finally, a vote was called. The decision to fight back passed by only 7 votes. Humanity would not surrender. Humanity would not kneel. Humanity would send a message. Dr. Kevin Shaw wrote the message himself. He had spent over 20 years studying how the Conclave communicated. He knew exactly how to make them understand. The message was short and simple. To the Galactic Conclave, we have received your order. We will not obey. Our ships will not be destroyed. Our growth will not be stopped. We know what will happen because of this choice. We accept it. Then came the final line. The words that would travel across 100,000 light years. Words that would reach beings who had never seen Earth. Beings who had never looked upon a human face. Beings who could not imagine that such a small species from such a tiny world could be so bold. We are coming. The message was sent at full power. It was broadcast on every frequency humanity could produce. It repeated continuously for 72 hours until the power reserves of the Kepler station were empty, and then humanity waited. For 6 months, nothing happened. The Conclave did not reply to the message. No alien fleets appeared at the edge of the solar system. No more warnings came. Some people began to hope that the Conclave was afraid. Maybe they did not want to risk a fight with even a small species. Maybe the threat had been empty all along. Others worried that the silence was the calm before a storm. On the 203rd day after the message was sent, the storm arrived. The sensors detected them first. A massive energy reading appeared at the edge of the Kuiper Belt. Then another, and another. Soon, over 300 separate contacts had been identified. They were ships. Each one was larger than anything humanity had ever built. Each one carried weapons that could break a planet in half. The Conclave fleet had come. Admiral Greg Palmer stood in the command center of the lunar fortress. He watched the enemy fleet form up on his screens. His face was calm, but his heart was racing. All units, this is Admiral Palmer, he said into the fleet-wide communication channel. We knew this day would come. We have prepared for it. We have trained for it. Now we face it. He paused. I will not lie to you. Many of us will not survive the next few hours. But what we do here today will decide the future of our species forever. If we fight well, If we make them bleed, then maybe we can convince them that humanity is not worth the cost of destroying. He stood up straighter. All units, battle stations, prepare to fight. The battle for humanity's solar system lasted 17 hours. It was the most violent fight in human history. Fire and metal filled the darkness between planets. 300 human warships faced 300 alien vessels. The void lit up with the light of dying ships. Admiral Greg Palmer commanded from his post on the moon. He watched his fleet throw itself against the enemy, like waves against rocks. The Conclave ships were massive. Their weapons were devastating. Their shields seemed impossible to break. For every alien ship that fell, 10 human ships were destroyed. But the human ships kept coming. The first big victory came for hours into the battle. Captain Marie Collins led a suicide attack against the Conclave flagship. Her ship, the Reliant, was barely 1/10 the size of the enemy command ship. But she had positioned herself perfectly. She found a small gap in the alien shields and flew her ship directly into the enemy reactor. The flagship exploded in a flash of light that could be seen from Earth. Marie Collins died in the explosion, along with her entire crew, but her sacrifice accomplished something remarkable. For the first time in the battle, the Conclave fleet stopped. "They are pulling back," reported Lieutenant Commander Amy Chen from the tactical station. "The enemy formation is retreating." "They did not expect that," Greg said quietly. "They did not expect us to be willing to die." The pause lasted 20 minutes. Then the Conclave started moving forward again. But something had changed. They were more careful now. Their attacks were less aggressive. They had tasted human defiance. They did not like it. The battle continued. By the 8th hour, humanity had lost over 200 ships. The defense platforms around Earth had been turned to dust. The lunar fortress itself had been hit many times. Whole sections of it were now open to the cold vacuum of space. But the Conclave had lost ships too. 43 of their vessels had been destroyed. Each one was a victory that cost humanity dearly. But each one proved that the enemy could bleed. Admiral Amy said, her voice tired and strained. "The enemy fleet is moving toward Earth. They are getting ready for a final attack." Greg looked at the tactical display. The remaining Conclave ships, over 250 of them, were forming a massive attack formation. They were pointing directly at Earth. If they reached humanity's homeworld, it would all be over. No defense force could stop that many ships from turning the planet to ash. "How long until they reach Earth?" he asked. 47 minutes. Greg closed his eyes. He had known this moment might come. He had prayed it would not. "Open a channel to Project Erebus," he said. Amy's face went white. "Sir, do it." The channel opened. A calm voice came through the speaker. "Erebus station online. Waiting for orders." Greg took a deep breath. "This is Admiral Greg Palmer. Authorization code Delta 77 Omega. Arm the weapon." "Confirmed. Weapon armed." Waiting for final launch order, Greg's hand moved toward the confirmation button. One press, and he would release a weapon capable of killing billions of beings. One press, and he would become the greatest killer in the history of the galaxy. But if he did not press it, humanity would die anyway. And there would be no one left to remember they had ever existed. Sir, Amy said suddenly. "There is a message coming in." From the enemy fleet, Greg's hand stopped. Put it through. The screen flickered. A face appeared. It was the first alien face humanity had ever seen in real time. It was not what Greg had expected. There were no scary features. No monster face. The being looked almost tired. Its skin was gray. Its eyes were large and dark. Something in its expression reminded Greg of a soldier who had seen too much war. "Human commander," the alien said. The words were translated automatically. "I am Fleet Master Zorvani of the Galactic Conclave. I wish to talk." Greg looked at the alien for a long moment. "I am listening. You have fought well. Better than we expected. Better than any Level 0 species in recorded history." The Fleet Master's dark eyes seemed to look right through Greg. "You have destroyed 43 of my ships. Do you understand what that means?" In 10,000 years, no primitive civilization has ever destroyed even one Conclave warship in combat. You have destroyed 43. We will destroy more if we have to, Greg said. Double quotes, yes, I believe you will. The alien's face changed slightly. It might have been respect. Your species has a fire in it that we have not seen before. A willingness to give up everything for the chance to survive. It is troubling. Is that why you are calling? To tell me how troubling we are? I am calling to give you a choice, the Fleet Master said. Fleet Master Zorvani's words hung in the air like smoke after a fire. A choice, Greg repeated. What kind of choice? The alien leaned forward on the screen. We can continue this battle. My fleet will destroy what remains of your defenses. We will reduce your homeworld to rubble. Every human being in existence will die. Greg said nothing. He waited. But in doing so, Zorvani continued, we will lose more ships. Perhaps many more. And when the battle is over, I will have to explain to the Conclave how a level 0 civilization cost us so dearly. That will be difficult. What is the other option? Surrender. Destroy your weapons. Return to your world and accept being watched forever. Your species will live, but you will never leave your solar system. You will survive, but you will survive in a cage. Greg's jaw tightened. Behind him, his crew watched in silence. Every person in the command center knew that the fate of humanity rested on what happened in the next few minutes. And if we refuse both options? Greg asked. If we refuse to surrender and refuse to die quietly? The Fleet Master was silent for a long moment. His dark eyes studied Greg with an expression that was hard to read. Then you force me to consider a third option. One that has never been offered to any species before. What option? Negotiation. The word echoed through the command center. For a moment, no one moved. No one breathed. Negotiation. Greg said slowly, the Conclave wants to negotiate with us. I want to negotiate with you, Zorvani corrected. The Conclave is ancient. It moves slowly. It does not change easily. But I have been watching your species for a long time now. I have seen how you prepare, how you fight, how you refuse to give up even when all hope is lost. He paused. In 10,000 years of enforcing Conclave law, I have never seen anything like it. Your species is different. Dangerous, yes. But also something else. Something that might be valuable. What do you want from us? I want to understand you. I want to know why you fight so hard. Why you would rather die than live in safety. The Fleet Master's voice softened slightly. And I want to see if there is a way for our civilizations to exist together. Not as master and slave, but as something closer to equals. Greg looked at the alien on the screen. He thought about all the years of preparation, all the sacrifices, all the people who had died in the last 17 hours fighting for a chance at freedom. How do I know this is not a trick? He asked. How do I know you will not destroy us the moment we lower our guard? You do not know, Zorvani admitted. Just as I do not know if your species will honor any agreement we make. Trust must be built. It cannot be given freely. Then why should I trust you now? The Fleet Master's expression changed again. This time, Greg was sure he saw sadness there. Because I am tired, Zorvani said quietly. I have spent 10,000 years destroying civilizations. I have watched 18 species burn because they refused to accept the rules we gave them. Each time, I told myself it was necessary. That we were protecting the galaxy from chaos. Shook his head slowly. But your species has made me question everything I believed. You are small. You are young. By every measure we use, you should be easy to defeat. And yet here we are, talking instead of fighting, because you have made victory too expensive. So what happens now? Now we talk. My fleet will hold its position. Your fleet will hold its position. And we will see if two very different civilizations can find a way to live together. Greg turned to look at Amy Chen. She nodded slowly. Around the command center, his officers did the same. All units, Greg said into the fleet-wide channel. Hold fire. Repeat, hold fire. We are entering negotiations. The response came back from across the solar system, confused, surprised, but obedient. "Very well," Greg said to the fleet master. "Let us talk." The negotiations lasted 3 years. They were held in a special station built at the edge of the solar system. It was the first meeting place between humans and aliens. Representatives from Earth sat across from representatives of the conclave, and they talked. They argued. They debated. They threatened and begged and compromised. Dr. Linda Morrison led the human side, even though she was very old now. She was 91 when the talks started, and 94 when they finally ended. She refused all offers to step down. She said she had waited her whole life for this moment, and she would not miss it now. The conclave believes that young civilizations should not travel between stars. Fleet Master Zorvani explained during one session, "You lack the experience to handle the responsibility. Your species has proven capable of violence and destruction. How can we trust you with the freedom of the galaxy?" Linda smiled. It was not a kind smile. "You ask how you can trust us?" she said. "Let me ask you something in return. How many species has the conclave destroyed?" 18. 20 more? Zorvana's expression darkened. Those species were threats to peace. Were they? Or were they simply species that refused to accept prison? Species that wanted nothing more than the chance to grow and explore? They were dangerous. "So are we," Linda replied. "You have seen what we can do. You have seen how far we will go. And yet here we sit, talking instead of fighting. Why? Because you know that the old way does not work anymore." She leaned forward. "The conclave has controlled the galaxy for millions of years by crushing anyone who might challenge it. But you cannot crush us. You have tried. You have lost more ships in one battle than you have lost in 10,000 years. And you know that if you push us into a corner, we will take as many of you with us as we can. So what do you want?" Zorvani asked. "A new arrangement. One based on equality instead of domination. Humanity will never accept being treated as a lesser species. But we also do not want war. We want partnership. We want the chance to prove that we can be good. Members of the galactic community," Zorvani studied her for a long moment. "You ask us to? Change a system that has worked for millions of years. I am asking you to see that the old system does not work anymore? Not with us. And there will be more species like us. Species that will not accept being contained. Species that will fight back." She spread her hands. "You can keep fighting. You can keep destroying any species that does not bow to you. But event. Uli, you will meet a species that beats you. Or you can start building something new. Something that includes all species, not just the ones you approve of." The talks continued, month after month. Year after year, both sides made demands. Both sides made compromises. There were moments when it seemed like everything would fall apart. There were moments when war seemed closer than peace. But slowly, carefully, an agreement began to take shape. Humanity would be allowed to leave their solar system. They could build colonies on other worlds. They could trade with other species. They could participate in galactic government. In return, humanity agreed to follow certain rules. No weapons that could threaten galactic systems. No expansion into territory claimed by others. No interference with developing civilizations. It was not a perfect agreement. Many people on both sides thought it was a betrayal of their beliefs. But it was a beginning. On March 15th, in the year 2147, exactly 123 years after the first conclave message, the final agreement was signed. Humanity was no longer level 0. They were provisional members of the Galactic Conclave. The first species ever to earn that status through defiance instead of obedience. The cage door had finally opened, Dr. Linda. Morrison died 6 months after the treaty was signed. She was 97 years old. She passed peacefully in her sleep, surrounded by friends and colleagues who had worked beside her for decades. The woman who had spent 40 years listening for a signal from the stars had lived long enough to shake hands with beings from another world. Her final words were recorded by the medical computer that watched over her. "We made it," she whispered. "We finally made it." The whole world mourned her passing. Schools were named after her. Statues were built in her honor. But the greatest tribute to her memory was something she never got to see: Admiral Greg Palmer retired from military service shortly after the treaty. He moved to a small farm in Montana, far from the stars he had spent his life defending. When reporters asked him about the battle that had changed everything, he would only shake his head. "We got lucky," he said. "We pushed back at exactly the right moment, in exactly the right way. Another species might not have been so fortunate." But privately, he believed something different. He believed that humanity had earned its place in the galaxy, not through luck, but through pure, stubborn refusal to give up. They had stood against a civilization that had crushed 18 species before them, and they had refused to break. That, more than anything else, was what it meant to be human. The years that followed the treaty were years of change. Slowly at first, then faster, humanity began to spread beyond the solar system. The first ships to leave were explorers, small vessels with crews of scientists and adventurers who wanted to see what lay beyond the edge of known space. They mapped new star systems. They discovered new worlds. They made contact with other species who had heard about the strange, newcomers who had stood up to the conclave and survived. Some of these species were friendly. They welcomed humanity with open arms, eager to trade and share knowledge. They had been watching Earth struggle from afar and had cheered when the tiny civilization refused to surrender. Others were suspicious. They had lived under conclave rule for thousands of years. They could not understand why the ancient powers had allowed these newcomers to join them. They watched humanity with careful eyes, waiting to see if the rumors about their stubbornness were true, and some were hostile. They saw humanity as a threat to the balance of power that had existed for millions of years. They whispered in dark corners about ways to destroy these upstarts before they grew too strong. But humanity continued to grow anyway. 50 years after the treaty, the first colony ship was ready to launch. It was called the Horizon, named after the project that had started humanity's journey to the stars. It was the largest ship ever built by human hands. Over 2 kilometers long, it could carry 10,000 colonists in comfort during the long journey between stars. Captain Patricia Reeves stood on the bridge of the Horizon, watching as the final preparations were completed. She was a young woman, barely 30 years old. With dark hair and eyes that seemed to see beyond the horizon she was named after. "All systems ready," reported her first officer, a man named Samuel Drake. "Colonists are in their quarters. Life support is stable. The drive is powered up and waiting for your command." Patricia nodded slowly. Through the viewport, she could see Earth hanging in the darkness. The blue and white marble that had been humanity's only home for so long. The world that had given birth to a species stubborn enough to challenge the masters of the galaxy. "Open a channel," she said. "Broadcast to Earth." The communication light turned green. "This is Captain Patricia Reeves of the colony ship Horizon. We are about to depart the Sol system for Alpha Centauri, where we will establish humanity's first settlement outside our home star system." She paused, thinking about all the people who had made this moment possible. Linda Morrison, who had listened for 40 years until the universe finally answered. Greg Palmer, who had led humanity through its darkest hour. Marie Collins and all the others who had given their lives so that this day could happen. To everyone watching back home, Patricia continued, "Thank you for believing in us. Thank you for fighting for us. Thank you for never giving up, even when giving up seemed like the only choice." She took a deep breath. "For 300 years, we sent messages into the void, hoping someone would answer. When they finally did, they told us to stay silent and stay small. They told us that the stars were not ours to reach. They told us to accept our cage and be grateful for it." Her voice grew stronger. "We refused. We fought back. We proved that humanity would not be contained. And now, today, we take the first step on a journey that will never end. We will build new homes on new worlds. We will meet new species and learn new things. We will face new challenges and overcome new obstacles." She smiled. "Whenever anyone asks us who we are and where we came from, we will tell them. We are humans." We come from a small blue world orbiting a yellow star in an unfashionable corner of the galaxy. We are young, and we are stubborn, and we do not know how to quit. Captain Reeves straightened in her chair. Navigation. Set course for Alpha Centauri. Course set, Captain. Engineering. Engage the drive. The horizon began to move. Slowly at first, then faster and faster. The stars outside the viewport began to stretch and blur as the ship approached the speed of light. Patricia opened the communication channel one last time. "We are coming," she said. And this time, the words were not a threat. They were a promise far across the galaxy. In a council chamber older than Earth itself, Fleet Master Zorvani watched the transmission from the human colony ship. His gray face showed no expression, but his dark eyes were thoughtful. "They are leaving their system," said one of the other council members. "Just as they said they would." "Yes," Zorvani replied quietly. "You sound almost pleased." Zorvani was silent for a moment. He thought about the battle's 17 hours that had changed everything. He thought about the stubborn old woman who had negotiated a treaty that broke 10,000 years of tradition. He thought about a species that would rather die than live in a cage. "I am not pleased," he said finally. "I am curious." "Curious about what?" "About what they will become." Zorvani turned to face the council. "We have ruled this galaxy for millions of years. We have seen thousands of species rise and fall. We thought we understood everything there was to understand about the universe and the beings who live in it." He looked back at the screen, where the horizon was now just a point of light among millions of others. "But these humans have shown us something we did not expect. They have shown us that there are still surprises left in the cosmos, still things we do not know, still possibilities we have not considered." "And that is a good thing?" Zorvani almost smiled. "Ask me again in 1,000 years." The horizon reached Alpha Centauri 4 years later. The colonists built their new home on a world they named New Hope. It was the first of many colonies. Within 100 years, humanity had spread across dozens of star systems. Within 1,000, they were one of the major powers in the galaxy. They never forgot where they came from. They never forgot the 300 years of silence. They never forgot the moment when the universe finally spoke and told them to stay small, and they never forgot their answer: "We are coming."